I'm not a therapist. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a guru. I'm just someone who's been through it and learned all these things the hard way. When I think about burnout now, what surprises me most is how quiet it was at the beginning. I didn't crash. I didn't have a dramatic breakdown. Nothing obviously went wrong. I just slowly became more tired, a more tired version of myself, and told myself it was normal. Burnout doesn't usually announce itself. It doesn't show up as a single bad day or a clear breaking point. It sneaks through with small compromises. You'll stay up a little bit later than you should. You skip rest because you'll catch up on it this weekend. You push through another week because things will calm down soon. And because none of it feels extreme on its own, you don't really realize what's happening until you're deep in it. At first, burnout looks like responsibility. You're showing up, getting things done, you're handling your life. You might feel proud of how much you're managing. Other people might even tell you that you're doing great. And on paper, maybe you are. But something feels off. You're more irritable than you used to be. Things that never bothered you suddenly feel overwhelming. Your patience is much shorter. Your enthusiasm is gone. You start procrastinating on things you actually care about. Not because you're lazy, but because everything feels heavier than it should. Things are now. I did that for a long time. One of the hardest parts of burnout is that it often disguises itself as motivation problems. You tell yourself you just need to push harder, you need to get more disciplined, try a new system. You assume the issue is a lack of effort, not a lack of recovery. So you double down on the very behaviors that are wearing you out. Burnout feeds on that logic. It thrives in people who are conscientious, people who care, people who don't want to let others down. It rarely hits the people who don't give a damn. It hits the ones who keep saying yes, who keep caring more than their share, who keep telling themselves they'll rest later. Later becomes a moving target. What makes burnout especially sneaky is that you don't feel exhausted in a dramatic way. You're not necessarily falling down or falling asleep at your desk. You're just constantly tired in a way that the rest doesn't seem to fix. You take time off, but you don't feel restored. You sleep, but you wake up already bracing for the day. That's because burnout isn't just physical exhaustion, it's mental and emotional depletion. It's decision fatigue. It's caring for too long without replenishing anything. And once you're there, a single nap or a weekend off doesn't touch it. Another quiet sign of burnout is emotional flattening. Things don't hit the same anymore. You're not deeply sad, but you're not excited either. You're just dulled. You go through the motions. You just show up. You function. But there's a distance between you and your own life. That numbness can be scary if you notice it, or invisible if you don't. Burnout also messes with your self trust. You start second guessing yourself more. Simple decisions feel harder, your confidence drops. Even if your competence hasn't, you're left behind, you feel left behind. Even when you're objectively doing fine, you feel like you're failing at something, but you can't quite explain what. So you keep going because stopping feels like it's irresponsible. And because no one tells you that burnout doesn't come from doing too much, sometimes it comes from doing too much of the wrong thing or the wrong kind of effort for too long. A lot of millennials grew up being told that struggle was temporary, that if you worked hard enough, things would stabilize, that there was a point where life would feel manageable. So when that point never arrived, we assumed the problem was with us. We didn't burn out as a warning sign. We saw it as a personal shortcoming. What I wish I understood sooner is that burnout isn't a failure of resilience. It wasn't a failure of resilience. It's a signal that something in your life is out of alignment, that the demands placed on you don't match the resources that you have that you have to meet them. And no amount of grit fixes that mismatch. Burnout also doesn't always come from work alone. It can come from constant availability, from being emotionally responsible for too many people, from never fully unplugging, from carrying the financial stress in the background of everything, from living in a state of low level urgency for years. And now, because it all gets normalized, you don't question it. You just adapt until you can't. By the time burnout becomes obvious, it often feels sudden. One day you just realize that you can't focus, or you dread things you used to enjoy, or you feel deep resistance to tasks that never bothered you before, and you wonder how you got there. The truth is, you didn't get there overnight. You got there one small decision at a time. One more late night, one more ignored boundary, one more season without real rest, one more, I'll deal with it later. That's why burnout feels so isolating. From the outside, everything looks fine. From the inside, you're barely holding it together. Recovering from burnout isn't about a dramatic reset. It's not about quitting everything or disappearing for 6 months. It's about noticing the quiet signs earlier next time. It's about taking fatigue seriously before it turns into numbness. It's about respecting limits instead of negotiating with them. It also means letting go of the idea that you have to earn rest or justify slowing down or wait until things are unbearable before you make changes. You don't need to hit rock bottom to admit you're tired. You don't need permission to protect your energy. You don't need to prove how burned out you are to deserve relief. Burnout sneaks up quietly, but recovery often starts with that doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you ungrateful. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you've been carrying more than you realize for longer than you should have. And if you're starting to feel that quiet exhaustion, the kind that doesn't go away with sleep, it's worth listening to. Not later, not after the next deadline, now. Because burnout doesn't always arrive loudly. Most of the time it whispers.